The information supplied on this program does not consider your personal circumstances and is general advice only. You should not act on any recommendation without considering your personal needs, circumstances and objectives. Retire Invest recommends you obtain professional financial advice specific to your circumstances. Jeff English is an authorised representative of RI Advice Group Proprietary Limited.
24-1 now. Jeff English with about 24 hours to go before we know the result of the United States presidential election, which I think everybody will be happy will be over and done with and dusted. But this surge yesterday on the American stock market, 373 points after fairly flat trading for a while.
Yes.
Indicates to me that those in the know are fairly confident of the way that the US presidential election will go.
I hope so, Graham. As we said last time we were in, the short-term volatility in markets was very much around the possibility of a Trump win, and especially with the little bit of bad-mouthing around the FBI probe into Clinton's emails, all of that sort of stuff now seems like it's gone away, and markets were relieved by that, hence the jump overnight. So that starts to tell you something, doesn't it?
But in reality, does the election of a new president really affect how markets will end up trading for foreseeable future?
Graham, in the very short term, I think we'll see a significantly different market outcome depending on who gets elected in the very short term.
So if Trump is elected, what do you reckon will happen with the markets in America?
Markets will go globally. Markets will go down significantly.
Globally?
Globally.
Right. Okay.
Yes. So US will go down, and off the back of that, so will the rest of the world. Based on a lot of things that Trump has been talking about, restricting trade, the way that the policies look. And also, I think, to do with what seems to be his attitude towards the rest of the world. So Clinton is seen as a safer bet, a little bit of a continuation, more of the same scenario. So we'll actually see, if Clinton's elected, we'll see a relief rally in stocks, because we have seen markets come back a bit over the last month. October itself was a fairly poor month for investment markets. So the Trump win, even if it's a tight, maybe not a clean sweep, more of that gridlock scenario, isn't particularly good for markets in the very short term. It'll probably see a weaker US dollar, especially against the yen and the euro, and maybe bond yields rising there as well. So that'll have a knock-on effect to us.
Righto. What happens, though, if neither party, the Republicans or the Democrats, can gain sufficient numbers to rule both the House, the Congress and the Senate? Is it going to be fairly similar to what we're experiencing here in Australia at the moment?
I think so, yes. So that confusion will actually be negative to markets as well. So a positive outcome, at least something that says, well, one versus the other can actually have policy impact, and get the things they want to do through, will give a more of an indicator. The big thing, though, we've got to remember is that over time, presidential elections don't really affect stock markets. It's more about economics. So, we've got 150 years of data that would indicate over the next, say, 2, 3, 5 years after elections, you get a similar outcome regardless. And in reality, some of the information we've got here today, since the Second World War, there's a bit of a myth that we can bust there that says that Republican presidents are actually better for stock markets. It's actually the other way around. The Democrats, and the reason they think that is Republicans are better for markets is that they tend to be more pro-business. So they're lower taxes, less regulation.
Similar to the Liberal Party.
Liberals versus Labor, absolutely. So that sort of scenario, when you look at things since 1945, Democrat presidents have actually presided over markets at an average return of about 10%, whereas Republicans just under 7%. So what that tells us, it's at least enough data over a long enough period of time to say that, it's more going to be economically than geopolitical. Very short term, okay, it's all about uncertainty and what's going to happen, but economics will win over time.
Yeah, but economics are also dictated by the policy of either of the two parties. So obviously the economists are looking at the policies that have been released by both parties.
Yes.
And they're saying, righto, well, if this particular party wins and the circumstances are right and all the stars align, we should have some confidence in the market. And that would include a clean sweep of both Congress and the Senate.
Yes, correct.
So that's the ideal situation.
And knocks on to then what's going to happen with inflation, what's going to happen with interest rates coming back up slowly over time. That has knock-on impacts to the currency and the rest of the world. So, and then what about oil prices and iron ore, and so there's all of those things as well. That's why, whilst the political side of things is important, we'll get back to economics after that.
All right, well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Anything else that you think would affect, confidence in the market?
Where we're heading?
Yeah.
China.
Yep.
So that's still, from an Australian perspective, still extremely important to us as to the next 3 to 5 years. China's the big one for us, but this US, call it, I don't want to say debacle, but it's potentially the right word. That'll go away fairly soon. Okay.
We shall wait and see. Thank you for your advice on that, and we'll just see, particularly here in Australia, what the markets, how the Australian markets react.
Well, Graham,
after America.
I think one of the most important things is for people at the moment is not to panic over these short-term things. Not that this is a small issue. It's obviously fairly significant, but over the longer term, they're blips on the radar.
Okay. Jeff English and Steve Lowe from Retire Invest, thank you both for coming in. Do appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's now 18-1.
Focus on the Downs with Graham Healy on 864 4GR.